In today's business world, change is the only constant, and mastering transformation is the ultimate key to success. Welcome to Shift and Thrive. I'm your host, Natalie Nathanson. Each week, we'll bring you conversations with CEOs who delve into how they successfully drove critical change in their organization. This show is sponsored by Magnitude Consulting, bringing you the thinking power of a growth consultancy and the getting it done power of a full-service B2B marketing agency. Today's guest is someone I am really excited to be speaking with. He's a business leader who spent the first part of his career at Sanofi Genzyme, working in leadership roles across a number of functions, including global leadership, line of business management, marketing, and product management. He then took the plunge into entrepreneurship and has spent the last 6 years rapidly growing a SaaS platform that transforms how organizations measure and reduce their waste, aligning to his passion of supporting our planet's health. His company recently won the 2024 Excellence Award as the PropTech Solution of the Year, which is property management tech for those who don't know. He's the CEO and founder of Spirit. Laurent Canneva, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Natalie. I'm humbled by this introduction.
Very well deserved. I'm glad to have you, and there's lots of topics I want to get into with you today, but I really wanted to start the conversation by talking a bit about starting and scaling your venture. And I know you started the company in 2018, and it's now been a couple of years since you really put your foot on the gas pedal to accelerate your growth and scale, and that you've worked through a few major areas to do that. So I'd love to talk about some of the lessons you've learned. But before we do that, can you just briefly give our listeners some context about your company, the problem you're addressing, and the stage that you're at?
Yes, sure. So about me quickly, as you can hear, I'm French. I arrived here in Boston 11 years ago. And as you mentioned, I spent the first part of my career in the pharmaceutical industry because I'm a doctor in pharmacy. And I started Spirit first on the side as a fun project, but it took me over and I left my corporate boat 2 years ago now. And the topic we are focusing on our efforts is waste reduction. And so that's a massive problem. We can talk about it, but there is first, way too much waste generated. Second, a big data gap for the corporation inside their real estates. And so.
Great. Well, thank you for that. Can you talk just briefly about the stage of your company?
So sorry. Yeah, we're in seed. We are moving to Series A. So it's still early. We've been bootstrapping. That's the entrepreneur journey. It's a fine line between growing and the right usage of capital, and right now is a very, very interesting phase because we onboarded some of the most beautiful logo any entrepreneur would dream to onboard. And the question is really, how do you raise your own game to be at the right level and answer, your customers' need. And so now we recently raised a bit more money, but really between seeds and Series A.
Yep. Great. Thank you. And I'd love to get into that dream logo and kind of some of what that means for you in a moment. Can you talk, more broadly, what are some of those sort of big lessons that you've learned and are working through?
So first, I think the problem we are addressing is such a blue ocean that you need to be bold. You need to take some risk. And even so, the problem is here. Some people might think it's impossible to solve. So how do you get to, oh yes, in fact, we can do it. And for this, I think one big lesson is work with the best. In fact, the best are already there. Actually, they've been working on your problem or thinking about your problem since 4 years. And so connect with the best and explain what you want to do. In fact, the fit will be immediate. Then with their support, you can go really far. We're still young, uh, but everybody here on the call will quickly understand the data gap problem on waste, and everybody will say, well, it's impossible. But no, it's not impossible. Just work with the best, do your pilot with them, scale with them, and you will show the world that it's possible. I
Yeah.
think, be bold, work with the best, and take it from there.
Yeah. And when you talk about working with the best, are you talking about both clients and team, or are you thinking more one versus the other?
Now I'm thinking both. That's a very good point. I was thinking client initially, but of course you cannot work with the best clients if you don't have the best team. But and when you think about the best client, I like to uh, separate two worlds here. There is the corporate world where you have um, the best forward-thinking leaders that are driving their organizations towards innovation. I'm thinking consulting company, I'm thinking banks, I'm thinking tech, um, and chief sustainability officers in there, head of real estates that are really, head of the game. So these people are fantastic. They are doing an amazing job to bring a massive organization and push for innovation and culture. But there is also another world that I loved and is probably connected to my education. It's the university. They are the universities. In fact, the universities have a fantastic leadership role to play. They are uh, training the fastest brain of tomorrow. They are training the future. And so I like to work with university. I approach this partnership very differently from a more business to business. Both are very important. They are more the thought leaders in a sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, as you're finding these early clients, can you talk about, how do you find them? You say wanting to work with the best, the ones that are innovating. What do you do for that?
You need to read, right? Read and understand on the academic side, it's quite clear quickly to see who is taking care of your problem here. We're talking about, sustainability of your campus or in universities, or sustainabilities in tackling and trying to reduce the carbon footprint of an organization. And so reading, looking at who's loud there, who's doing the hard work, and connecting with them, if possible, in person when they are gathering. And it's always better to be in an event where your mind is free of the day-to-day work. And I love this conference because we all come in, uh, we set this time, off the day-to-day schedule. So how to connect with them, I think that's really a good moment. But today, and because we were born during COVID, I'm also amazed at what we can do remotely. Look at us today speaking about this. We are in the same neighborhood or kind of great, New England, but I could be elsewhere. And so I was able to sign very significant deals remotely without being in person at all. So, yeah, two
Yeah.
ways to read. That's how we read. We talk to them.
Yeah. And I think you had mentioned that some of your clients operate at a very global level, and that was maybe kind of another area to really navigate for a growing business. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. I mean, so maybe two words on what we do so people can refer to this after. So we are basically a waste measuring platform, so software platform to enable organization to measure for the first time their waste inside the real estate. So, and we do this at scale. Interestingly enough, we were born during COVID, and our initial focus was the workplace, so office space. So they were basically empty suddenly. Our two first customers were Moderna and MIT, so beautiful POs, for just young entrepreneurs. But then path COVID hits, and our pivot was not to change the foundations of what we were doing in the platform, but to look at other geographies. While here in the US, offices were empty. And this is how we landed in Hong Kong. starting a beautiful partnership with landlord number two, Sawyer Properties there, we have been working with since 3 years now, and we are engaged for 3 new years, and we did this remotely, so connected to what I was just saying before, and so that's a challenge, to be spread out across already two geographies. Um, and I remember my business school where we say like, start local, focus, grow local, then expand. Yes, but here our customers are driving us, and these customers are usually global. So once we did the headquarters, like 6 months after I have offices here in London, I have offices here in Dublin, in Paris, in Toronto, and can you do it? So yeah, because we are scalable, we say yes, and we did, and so that's how we, after really 2 years of real commercial development, have deployments on 3 continents already. It's a stretch because, of course, it brings complexity. It's also a lot of fun, um, because being able to say to some of these global brands, yes, do it. Uh, this is their first surprise. And if we do it well, then this brings pretty good momentum.
Yep. Yeah. I think it's interesting, like there's the business school, the theory and the best practice around growth strategy and market plan. And then the realities of a startup, you see an opportunity, there's an opportunity in the market, there's demand from customers, and then you want to make sure you want to meet customers where they are and be able to support them.
Yeah, no, sure. However, I think the business school is still right. So even so, we are spread through the demand of our customers. Our focus is really here in the US.
Yeah.
Our extreme focus is here. Um, but once the customer tasted the solution, they want to have it elsewhere. So we follow them. We're not going to proactively go there. We're going to just follow them.
Right. Right. I'm curious, are there a lot of differences from the global perspective of the market maturity around the interest for waste reduction, the kind of I guess like regulatory environments kind of supporting this?
Yes. So it's important when we talk to waste to step back a little bit and just realize the size of the problem. Um, in the US, it's 4.9 pounds of municipal solid waste per person per day, in average. And so, um, how do we manage this? And until January 2018, so there is general waste, and there is recyclable, and there is compost. We all know that. But so general waste will go to a landfill or an incinerator. They are all at capacity. Nobody wants a new landfill. Nobody wants a new incinerator. So all the government is pushing for diversion, more compost, more recycling. Until January 2018, everything was shipped to China. So all the recyclables, 8,000 containers a day, were leaving from New York to China. But since China banned January 2018, China there was a market actually. And since January 2018, China is saying, we're not paying for it. We're not taking it. Deal with it. And so thankfully, there are a lot of entrepreneurs there that are focusing on this problem and are working on recycling capabilities, and it's getting there step by step. But it's really interesting to understand the size of the problem.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's US, but that's also Europe. From the in Asia, the infrastructures are not as good as in Europe and US, despite the fact that we started not a long time ago. The mentality is very different. I think Europe is ahead of the game. Some attack countries like Japan, we remember Japan is extremely cautious on the waste, and they are. You won't see much waste in the street in Japan. US, big consumer country, we go or we don't think really much, and we have a lot of progress to do. Think about the number I gave before, 4.9 pounds of waste, of municipal solid waste per person per day. If we were able to reduce this by 1 pound, 320 million people doing this, that will be like 120 billion tons of waste and CO2 saving per year. So what we want is just involve millions of people to do a little bit better every day. And when you think about this, is where is the starting point? How do you do this? You cannot change something you're not measuring. So the key is in the data. And back to what we do.
Yeah, yeah. Well, thank you for that explanation. And I think it comes back to something that you said earlier that, right, you address a problem that some might think is impossible to solve, and then you tackle it anyways and look for a way to solve it. I imagine there was some risk taking involved in working through that. I'm curious to ask you, like, do you consider yourself a risk taker? And as a leader, kind of what was going on for you in kind of making this decision?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the only strategy that fails is a strategy without risk. That's Mark Zuckerberg, right? And so you have to take risk. Um, and in order to take them the best way, in a sense, it's very important to follow the leaders who took these kind of risks before. And they can, if you listen well, and if you are well surrounded by good advisors, you will avoid a lot of rabbit holes and traps, right? So take risk, but listen to the leaders, listens to others. And definitely we've been taking so much risk, and we're taking, you know, I'm coming from a world of in the corporate world, nice salary, every day, everything is steady. I leave the boat continues this ride and everything. Here you really are thinking about, the dollars, where do you place them? Each decision is a risk, and step by step, you see that your burn rate is increasing and your responsibility is increasing. And then you hire the new talent, it comes with more responsibility. So you take risk, but it's very rewarding when this risk pay off. And when you see the initial vision being physically illustrated into, concrete scale deployment at scale. Like we with some of our customers, we are doing all their offices across North America. With some of our customers, we are doing the entire building, and so now they see their waste data by stream, general waste by floor, by bin, and now that they see, they can improve operations. Right, before they were blind. So take risk, but people will say, "Hey, well, you guys are crazy. You're tackling a problem like it's impossible." No, look at what the others did, and it's absolutely possible. And the more you take risk, the more the leaders that are risk takers, that are in this corporation, are making that bet with you, and it works. Then it convinces the other, of course, because they say, "All right, this seems to work." And after 17, 20 customers that are successful, then it helps.
Right, right. Which is moving from those early adopters to kind of more of the mass
Exactly.
market and knowing that they need different things to be comfortable with that. I think, most of the people, entrepreneurs listening to this, have had that feeling of creating something that didn't exist. You have to, take the plunge. Sometimes even thinking of my own experience, when I started my company 12 years ago, there were some people, a business school professor in particular that I won't name, that said, I don't think this is a great idea working in this kind of a model. And I'm so glad I didn't listen to him, right? Because then I went for it anyways. And some of those early customers, I'll never forget some of the reactions of, wow, I didn't know a model like yours existed. And then years later, they're still a client. And it's just so rewarding to know that you saw a problem, you found a good solution, and then you have those partnerships with clients
Yeah,
to make a
absolutely.
difference.
I feel for these early adopters that are kind of, we are talking about risk taking, that are taking the risk with you. I mean, the relationship becomes strong because yes, we are going to invest on their side and we're going to take, very, and if we're successful together, this is beautiful. I mean, this is extremely rewarding.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Laurent, I want to ask you a more general question really about your leadership style. Can you talk about kind of what you uniquely bring to the table as a leader?
Sure. I don't like to speak too much about myself. So I think the first thing is about being humble, humility. And I think a chance I have in this journey is I have a co-founder. I met so many solo founders. I have so much respect for them because being solo founder is you don't have a sounding board. So um, back to one first thing, humility, being humble, and uplift each other. Right? This is uplift each other. Each of the brains are here, hopefully, to solve the same problem. So respect each of the perspective and try to take the decision that are going in the right direction strategically, but really by uplifting each other. The second one that is quite specific to me is friends and family first, ever. Even if there is a very important presentation to a customer or whatever, but there is another priority that comes: health, friends, or family. Definitely go. We'll have a plan B for the work, right? So I think that is something that each and every member of our team will feel uh, very strongly, and it has been illustrated in some important moment already. Um, the last one I think is um, lead by example. It's very important, and work hard. Don't ask to the others to work hard. Just work hard. Just just work hard. They follow, and be respectful in terms of like be fair, always fair on the reward on the work. That's, I think, the three things I would share. Being humble, uh, place the priority where it should be when it comes to work versus family and life, and uh, lead by example, work hard.
Yeah, yeah, I love that, and I'm a big subscriber to leading by example as well. I was talking to someone a couple of days ago, runs another professional services business, and he was saying that he feels like he's working so hard, but it's different than the way the rest of the team works. And so his concern was that the team doesn't see him working hard. So it's kind of an interesting discussion around, do you need to kind of do anything for show to make the team realize you're working hard, or you just trust that right, everyone's doing what they need to, and kind of the CEO's role is inherently different.
Yeah. And in a sense, we are still small, 14 people. We all know, we can really all know very well each other and see things. But as the organization is growing, I'm wondering, uh, and your question becomes more and more important. I think I will stick to my core value and continue like this, but also listen to others' experience to make sure that I can adapt this style to the size of the team.
Right, right, for sure. I'm curious if you've noticed any changes in yourself, either organically or deliberately, in moving from kind of a big corporate environment to leading a startup.
Yeah, I mean, that's interesting because I was doing this as a hobby first, and it forced, I mean, the traction and make that shift and decision to jump out of the main boat. And I thought I would have more time. Um, In fact, it's absolutely the opposite. Now that I'm dedicated to this since, these past 2 years, and if I look back, uh, I would thank my wife for the patience, because every entrepreneur had warned me, but it takes you really um, cover a lot. So um, that's one thing. The second thing is because we are so stretched, you need to um, improve your process, and scalability comes with good processes. And I'm a more creative guy. I'm more like, I'll be the crazy guy in the team. Uh, Thankfully, my co-founder is extremely rational, and I think I improve, and I'm improving right now. It's one of my area of focus. Uh, Put that process together. It's so powerful when it's well done, and when you have the right team to help you do this. So yeah, I noticed two things: less time. I thought I would have more, and more process.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. There's certainly never enough hours in the day and always many more
Mhm.
things that we'd like to be working on. I'm with you on the process side. And for my organization, one of the things was getting to the right point where I could bring in other leaders that were much stronger in those areas than myself. But that can't be at the expense of building different skill sets and disciplines within ourselves as leaders. And the topic that I've been thinking a lot about is how do I keep pushing myself and evolving myself as a leader, because I feel like the world around us is changing so much. So becoming more data driven, more process oriented, thinking more about scalability and not always kind of so custom, which I think I'm a little more like you on the creativity side. So it's yeah, it's a topic I've
Yeah,
been
yeah.
thinking,
But as you
working
say,
on.
uh, the other talents are coming and are helping you. So because they have different sets of skills. So uh, never be afraid of the difference, in a sense that this is here to enrich. And it's true in the team. It's true in the board. It's true it's true in every for every member of the team. Yeah.
Right. So thinking a little bit about present day, curious to see if there's anything that you're particularly passionate and excited about that you're focused on at the moment.
Yeah. So there is one I just mentioned. I think it's a good segue. Process. I'm passionate about the tools, and I'm getting really deep into this. But one that a startup, it's a little bit like a recipe. Our product is like a recipe. You learn, you tweak things, you adapt, you find your market fit. Then the customers respond. It teaches you how it would be better, and so you're getting to something that you can reproduce and scale. And there is one place where um, I think we can help the planet right now, and that's just it's the topic of food waste. So among the different streams we are monitoring, amongst the different data sets we're collecting, food waste, in particular in retail or F&B retail, and or restaurants. This is a huge topic, and it's so complicated for this organization to produce the right amount of food every day, uh, to sell the exact amount, and to avoid food waste, right? Um, and so I think data on in this particular area can help a great deal. I saw a few entrepreneurs already, a lot of entrepreneurs helping organization doing this. I'm thinking about about Lean Pass in the restaurants that are helping the chef, think about how much food they need, and understand Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and learn how they can reduce food. And this has not just an environmental impact, it has a direct impact on your P&L, like if you're able to better understand. So that topic for me of how can we help FMB retail understand food waste and be rewarded by any efforts they do to repurpose it to a food bank with tax credit or things like this is fantastic. And they have no data today. They're counting back basically. So I'm quite passionate about this, but it comes with imagine the size of the and the numbers of these facilities to be equipped. It's big.
Yeah. I'm
step by step.
curious, do you have any examples to help bring this to life of a particular company that comes to mind of how they tackled this? How did they use data to change their practices?
Yeah. I don't want to shout out too much names, but it's interesting to see how leading organization. I'm gonna talk about a big coffee brand, for example, the um, retail, FMB. Um, so circularity for a leader, for some of them, and for this particular, I think I can name Starbucks. I'm very impressed by the work they are doing. So they have they have a massive problem to solve. They deliver coffee, food to everybody, but they are paying. There's a full team that is paying attention to the packaging, and and how can we improve this packaging and its circularity? How can we reduce our waste? Um, they're also thinking and leveraging data about how much do I need, and when I have 16,000 coffee all across the US, I need process to manage them very tightly. But how can I reduce the my waste, my food waste? Can I improve my PNL? And if I have food waste, what can I do with this? And this is where you recognize the leader. They go one step beyond. They're gonna take that food that is eatable but cannot be sold for regulatory reasons and send it to the food bank. And this is beautiful, but nobody really knows about it because they don't have our data to communicate about this, or they don't have enough our data. And um, I think we can help them a great deal. Um, uh, this is, um, I think this is one of the most striking example I encountered recently. Um, your own business comes with that problem to better predict, better right size, and how can you do it without data? This is, they do have data, but we can bring some more.
Right, right. Oh, well, thank you for sharing that. Lauren, I'd love to hear a little bit more about you. You shared a little bit about your background at the start of the call, but kind of tell me about your life. Who you were you as a child? Did you expect to someday be working in the space that you are?
Um, yeah, so I French, born in Brittany, which is the northwest part of France, and grew up in a small town named Saint-Malo. Beautiful. Actually, you should check it out on the internet. It's an old fortification. Grew up in a beach house, so um, maybe a couple of things when you have your garden is the beach and the sea, right? I've been windsurfing all my life, standing in the wind and in the strong wind. Um, I don't know. These are foundations that I enjoyed. I love being in the contact of the nature, being in the water, in the wind, and spending hours on a football, for example. That was, however, a little bit solo. What I enjoyed coming into, you know, this corporation is being part of a team. And what I'm giving to my children today is being, in this ice hockey team or lacrosse or being there as a member of a team. I think it's very important. Um, so that's a little bit about um, how I grew up. I think one of the reasons for my shift, remember, from this past and pharmaceutical industry focused on human health, beautiful company, vaccines, rare diseases, oncology. So no lack of purpose there, and such a beautiful mission to planet health, our house, housekeeping. Is this connection? One of the reason is the connection to nature, like and how good you feel when you're in nature. versus when you are in front of your smartphone, right? So there are two worlds there. We need both. We are moving forward in both, but that's very deep into me getting into Glacier National Park or even just local Maine as beautiful. This is the so
Well, I think that connection to nature is really interesting. And I think there's a lot of people who have lost touch with that, or maybe haven't had that in their lives, but it's so human. And I have seen more conversations around the benefits of forest bathing, which I think is much more common in certain cultures than others, but especially in a world that's so kind of technology infused and screens coming at us from all directions.
yeah.
And so being able to connect to that, I think is wonderful.
And that's probably maybe one of the reasons why, we arrived in the US 7 years ago for 2 years. Here I am 11 years after with creating a company. And so, um, but US is absolutely has a beautiful nature. It's a beautiful country. And there is a paradox here when we come to waste, there is a culture for consumption that is very strong and that is good for business and is bringing all the innovation, but is not thoughtful enough on circularity. We know this. Um, and why? I'm wondering often why, but guys, look in the garden. My backyard is full of animals. And when I go fishing, I got fish. Like it's there. It's beautiful. And it is preserved in the national park the best way. So where's the problem in a sense? It's there. Everything's fine. Well, yeah, because you're lucky. You got space and things have been somewhat preserved. Um, but it's not the case everywhere in the world. So I think I like this paradox, and yeah, I think it definitely contributed to my shift, the immediate and quick access to uh, wilderness here in the US.
Yeah, yeah,
People
so
often don't
connected.
realize this.
Yeah. But I love how that connecting the dots to the venture that you started and kind of bringing it back to the
Mm.
planet health. Thinking about your leadership, knowing everything that you know now, if you look back to kind of who you were at the start of your career, what advice would you have given your younger self in your first ever leadership role?
I think I already touched a little bit about this. Follow the leaders. Don't be afraid to ask for informal mentorship. I mean, I personally love working with MBAs that are just coming out of school. I am fascinated by the speed of their brain, their curiosity, and their willingness to change things. Um, and I'm happy to give some of my time to this kind of, people. And so to my younger self, look at the leaders because they learned a lot. So there are reasons why they're here, and if what they do resonates with you, connect with them and learn from them, you'd save so much time. Yeah, it's like, so that's one. And, and the other one is, but I didn't have to hold off too much on this one, take risk. I think the first one is more important. Follow the leaders and then take risk, listening to the leaders, because if you take risk too young, too quick, you might make mistakes.
Yeah, yeah. Well, very well said. And I think the connection between those two sounds like what you're getting at, that
Yeah.
there's a balance to get it right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, Lauren, thank you so much. This has really been a great conversation. If listeners want to get in touch with you, what's the best way to reach you?
Well, I think it's LinkedIn. LinkedIn, you will find me, Laurent Canneva. You will find Spirit very easily. We're connected, so very easy
Wonderful.
to find.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for this conversation. I know I loved learning from you and hearing so much of what you shared. So really great to have you on.
Well, thanks a lot, Natalie, for reaching out and taking the time. I always react extremely positively to curiosity. Thank you so much for having me today.
My pleasure. And thank you so much to everybody listening. I'm sure you learned a lot from today's episode. Please share this episode with someone. Spreading this kind of knowledge and information really helps all of us learn and grow as leaders and equips us to drive successful innovation and transformation in our organizations. So thanks again, Laurent. And this has been another wonderful conversation on Shift and Thrive. See you next time. That's a wrap for this week's episode. For show notes and more, visit shiftandthrivepodcast.com. A special thank you to our sponsor, Magnitude Consulting, bringing you the thinking power of a growth consultancy and the getting it done power of a full-service marketing agency to help B2B companies fuel their growth. For more information on Magnitude and to get your complimentary transformation readiness assessment, visit magnitudeconsulting.com/getready. Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you next week.